Hey everyone, welcome to another round of Tuesday Night Legacy presented by Spellhold Games. My name's Eugene and I'll be your commentator for this round 2 of March 1st. On the left we have Mason playing 60 card D&T. He's splashed red this time, so it's a red-white D&T list, very interesting. And on the right, his opponent is going to be John playing a 4-color Loam control list. Let's get right into it. So I think John is starting us off here. Gonna start with a fetch land pass. These first couple turns are actually kind of funny because we see a fetch land and a pass. And John goes with a fetch land, that fetch land and pass. So we see a Windswept Heath, a Verdant Catacombs for John, and a Prismatic Vista Arid Mesa for Mason, kind of just setting all of these things down. No real plays, but what I'm about to highlight here, okay, we see a Mox Diamond, that's a spell. It's going to discard a Windswept Heath, and then we're going to see a, what is that, a Scrub Land? And we're going to do something that we refer to as shortcutting. So if you were playing Magic online, you'd have to sacrifice your Windswept Heath, resolve the full ability, get the land from your deck, and then put the Verdant Catacombs onto the stack as well. Or you could, I guess, technically respond to sacrificing as a part of the cost if you really wanted to. But the point is that you would have to fetch each one individually, but by shortcutting, you simply tell your opponent, I'm going to do both of these things, I guess kind of passing priority. The opponent agrees to it, and then you can go and do two things, getting two things out of your deck at the same time. We see John looking around here in his sideboard. I think the specific card that he was looking for, he may not have had in his deck. We're not entirely certain, but he did decide to finally get a Savannah and a Forest with his 2 fetch lands. So he's got 4 mana on turn 3. That Mox Diamond allowing him to have any color that he'd like. So we're seeing 3 mana for a Knight of the Reliquary, a classic card in the Maverick or Rock lists. Abzan, I guess, is what the MTG term for it is nowadays, since ever since what the dragons? Khans of Tarkir. It's simply the 3 color of black, green, and white. And so Knight of the Reliquary is going to get a whole bunch of power from the lands in the graveyard. Obviously, John, having a lot of fetch land, is going to try to grow that Knight of the Reliquary as much as possible. Didn't really matter this time, though, as Mason did the same shortcutting, got a couple basics and a red mana. Did the Swords to Plowshares, killing the Knight of the Reliquary. Oh, it's supposed to be exiled, but gotta really watch these exiling triggers over graveyard triggers. Mason plays Magus of the Moon on turn 3, so this is going to turn all non-basics into forests. So that is going to really hurt the 4-color Loam deck, but luckily John was able to just squeak out 3 different colored mana with that prismatic ending, using the Mox Diamond for white, the Forest for green, and the Scrub Land for red. So just enough pips to hit a converted mana cost 3 thing, getting Magus of the Moon exiled, which is now actually in exile. We see 2 mana for one of the newer equipments from Kamigawa, the Lion Sash. This is actually going to be really good against the Knight of the Reliquary deck, as it has an activated ability that allows it to eat cards out of any graveyard, and if it is a permanent card, it gets a +1/+1 counter onto it. We see Dragon's Rage Channeler coming down on John's side. The classic, new classic, 1/1 with Surveil anytime that you cast a non-creature spell, and gets +1 or +2/+2, gains flying and has to attack if you have Delirium, which is 4 different card types in your graveyard. We see Endurance come down here from a Wasteland, shuffling back John's graveyard onto the bottom of his library. So now he's got a 3/4 reach. This is kind of stopping the Lion Sash from eating the cards out of the grave. 3 mana from Mason is going to... Oh, there's Endurance for anybody who needs to see it. Excellent. Probably the maybe the best elemental creature. Solitude's right up there, though. And then we see Mirran Crusader come down, the double strike 2/2 with protection from black and green. This is going to have a lot of protection and power against John's deck, since, you know, all he has is that Dragon's Rage Channeler, which is still just a 1/1. Endurance can't block it, so he's taken 4 here. We saw a Dark Confidant come down, but get almost immediately Swords to Plowshares. That would have gained John some card advantage, but not being able to stick around, he's going to lose that card advantage. He only has 1 card in hand. So we're back on Mason, attacking for 4. So if nothing else happens, John is winning this race at the moment. But Mason can grow that Lion Sash. And we see actually a Stoneforge Mystic come down, choosing Sword of Fire and Ice, and John decides that we should just go to game 2, because putting a Sword of Fire and Ice on an unblockable creature is going to be 10 damage from a single attack. So here we are in game 2. Just want to make sure I'm on. Yep. John starting the game with a Windswept Heath into, not entirely certain, check the deck once, checking the deck again. One more time. I'm sure that if you're a 4-color deck and you have 1-ofs of every single type of dual land, it sometimes gets difficult to keep track of all of the different duels in your deck. He specifically went for Taiga here so he could cast the Dragon's Rage Channeler on turn 1, giving him advantage for, I guess, when he plays his Mox Diamonds. Doesn't really have cantrips, as the one color that is not in the deck is blue. Missing blue from the 4-color Loam deck. We see a 1 mana Giant Killer coming down from Mason. This actually can cast as an instant for 3 mana, destroying a creature with power 4 or greater. Great way to deal with Murktide Regent. Or, if you really need to, you can tap down any creature in play once the creature is in play and not affected by Summoning Sickness. Although, catching a Punishing Fire, it is going to die to that. We see... Oh, we did see the Grove of the Burn Willows in play, which would have been able to pull back the Punishing Fire from the grave by giving Mason life each turn. But Mason had the Wasteland ready for it, so it destroyed the Grove of the Burn Willows, and then Swords to Plowshares that Dragon's Rage Channeler. And now we see a Resolve Dark Confidant here. So when it comes in, or each turn he gets to draw an extra card. It creates card advantage for the player with the Dark Confidant down at the price of life. However much your converted mana cost that is revealed off the Confidant is how much damage you take. So you want to keep a lower converted mana cost curve in your deck so that at any given time, statistically, you will take not that much damage. There are crazy people who like to run Dark Confidant with the Stoneforge package, and when that happens, you know, flipping a Cauldra Complete off of a Dark Confidant, taking 7 damage is not great. Not that I've done that personally. I have done that personally. It wasn't great. All right, we see Dryad Arbor come down. That was a creature, but also a land. Couldn't tap it for mana because it had Summoning Sickness, but now he can. We see a Stoneforge Mystic for the Magus of the Moon, kind of in response. So the Magus had to resolve, but while John still had access to his colored mana, he floated a white mana. The Magus of the Moon resolved, came into play, and then he was able to use that mana that was still, I guess, on the stack before the phase ended to cast the Swords to Plowshares, getting rid of Magus of the Moon and getting his mana back. We see a fairly large Neither Reliquary come down on John's side. It's 5/5 right now. 2 lands in the grave. 2? 3? Should be a 4/4, I think, because it's a 2/2, and there's 2 lands in the grave. We see a Recruiter of the Guard for for Mason, and he's going to get any creature with toughness 2 or less into his hand, and he chose Stoneforge Mystic, which is just kind of chilling in his hand right now. Has that Wasteland up to threaten to destroy anything. One of the activated, or I guess the only activated ability on the Knight of the Reliquary is you can tap it to sacrifice a Plains or a forest and get any land out of your deck. And so a fast way to grow Neither Reliquary is you sacrifice a land, go and get a fetch land so that you can fetch, getting 2 land cards into your graveyard, growing the Neither Reliquary by 2 power simply by activating the ability once. So he gets a Tundra so he can cast this Dak Faden, a fan favorite for a few players at the store. Dak Faden has the ability to loot twice. You draw 2 cards and discard 2 cards, or you can take control of target artifact from a player. So this is going to generate a lot of card advantage. Card selection. Card advantage is a completely different thing. So you are seeing more cards, which is advantageous over your opponent, so I guess you could refer to it as card advantage, but you are not actually drawing and being able to play more cards. The card selection is much better. You get to choose, see more cards and choose which cards you want to play. Just a slight, I guess, almost rules lawyery difference of those two things. We see Stoneforge Mystic come down for Mason. I think he also played that Magus of the Moon when I wasn't paying attention. So Magus is in play. That means John has only very, very fancy mountains. And we see the Stoneforge Mystic come down, and it grabbed Sword of Fire and Ice. So I think Mason was playing a little bit cautiously here, as Dak Faden can take control of target artifact when it comes in, or when it's your turn and you can activate your Planeswalker. So any equipment that he puts down will be under control of Dak Faden. The difference is that John has to equip that. If he takes an equipment, he must equip it to his own creature. He doesn't just get the creature with the equipment. So we will see how the sword works out here. We see an activation from Dak Faden, getting rid of a couple cards, and I think no, there's no Lion Sash in play, so kind of deciding what he wants to tap here, what he's going to do, if he's going to attack with that Neither Reliquary, that I think is still just a 5/5 one. It's a little muddy in the grave, but yeah, I think there's only 3 lands in the grave right now. Decides to pass it on back. That Dark Confidant and Dak Faden, allowing John to see 3 extra cards per turn. So there you go. That's the difference. Dark Confidant is creating card advantage, and Dak Faden is creating card selection. There, it's right on the board state. All right, we see Mason play. Well, here's Sword of Fire and Ice. We haven't seen it in play yet, but this can create a lot of advantage as well if you can connect. Usually the best against blue and red decks, of course, with the protection. But that extra damage, if you can put it on a flying creature and get to shoot something and draw an extra card, drawing extra cards is not a lot of what DnT can do, so they can benefit a lot from that extra card draw. Flicker Wisp came down, and I believe it flickered... I think it flickered the Stoneforge Mystic to get another equipment. No, it flickered the Recruiter of the Guard, excuse me. And then we saw a revealed Plague Engineer off of that Dark Confidant, dealing 3 damage to John. That is the risk of Dark Confidant, but that's also the benefit of Dark Confidant when you reveal things like Mox Diamond and get a free card for 0 mana. Or 0 life, rather. On Mason's side, we see the Mirran Crusader come down, the Beat All-Star. Although it does die easily to something maybe like a red spell that can deal 2 damage. It can be recurred from the graveyard, so hopefully... Oh, but we did see the Mox Diamond, so that means that John has access. Yes, there's the Mox Diamond, pitching a Cephalid Coliseum. I didn't realize that his list ran that. So now he has access to colored mana, which is going to be Swords to Plowshares, taking care of the Magus of the Moon, which means that John has all of his colors back. He activates the Grove of the Burned Willows, getting back Punishing Fire. A second Swords to Plowshares. Looks like things are going bad for Mason suddenly. We lose the Mirran Crusader. Punishing Fire is going to kill something. Deciding on it. Decides to get the Sword of Fire and Ice into play. Stoneforge Mystic dies to Punishing Fire. Dack Fayden has already been activated for this turn, so he cannot take the Sword of Fire and Ice this turn. And it looks like a lot of mana has been tapped. And that is a huge Knight of the Reliquary. I believe that it is a 10/10. Looks like... Well, that was interesting. I think Knight of the Reliquary attempted to attack and Wasteland the Maze of Ith, and in response untapped the Knight of the Reliquary, kind of giving it pseudo-vigilance. But not really, I guess, because he had to do it in response to the Wasteland, so Knight of the Reliquary was not able to get the damage in. So we see an equip to the Flicker Wisp, which is going to kill Dack Fayden, protecting that Sword of Fire and Ice from being taken by John. See a Mother of Runes down for Mason. Basically just have to deal with a 10/10 Knight of the Reliquary and this Dark Confidant that is going to reveal an Uro off of the Dark Confidant trigger. Another 3 damage. So it's probably good that he drew Uro because he's losing a lot of life to this Dark Confidant. And that is the risk you run sometimes. I've seen players die from Dark Confidant triggers. 1 white mana. Definitely a Swords in Hand. But he has to decide, is this the removal spell I want to use on this Mother of Runes? John cannot let this Mother of Runes go to untap, because if he does, he's going to have to use it 2 removal spells to get rid of it. So it is the most vulnerable right now. Mason points at his Flicker Wisp and says, "Oh, you want to Swords the Flicker Wisp?" And John says, no, that's gonna get the Mother of Runes. He goes, okay, I understand. 2 mana, 3 mana is going to be Grist the Hungertide. I think I forgot to include Grist in my list. So Grist is pretty interesting. The Planeswalker is going to tick down. It has the ability of sacrificing a creature, destroying target, I believe it's creature or Planeswalker. It might be creature or artifact. I'm not 100% sure on that. But John got rid of his Dark Confidant as he realized it was killing him, and got rid of the Flicker Wisp for that, because it is a black and green creature, or Planeswalker rather. He was able to target the Flicker Wisp that had protection from green and red. Or blue and red, excuse me. We see an attack from Recruiter of the Guard, killing off Grist, having the sword attached to it. So that was a good example of Sword of Fire and Ice working super well. You can actually attack the opponent, dealing the 3 damage, and then he was able to shoot Grist with the 2 damage from the sword and still draw an extra card. We see Prismatic Ending, but it can't actually be cast. Magus of the Mood turning all of those non-basics into mountains. John only has access to 2 different mana types. The white from the Mox Diamond to actually cast Prismatic Ending, and then just a whole bunch of red mana. So that does not fulfill the 3 mana pip requirement to get rid of a converted mana cost 3 creature. Or, yeah, and converted mana cost 3 anything, which is what Prismatic Ending can do. We see instead a Sylvan Library come down. Sylvan Library giving a lot more card selection and advantage at the cost of life. Library at this point, since John is at 3, is only going to be selection, as if he paid the extra cost to Sylvan Library, he would actually die from that trigger. A state-based effect. You lose the game. But he won't do that. Looked like he saw a Punishing Fire on top there, which is the perfect card he needs for this situation. We see 1 red mana, 2 red mana, Punishing Fire on the Magus. It's going to open back up his mana colors. 3 different manas for the Prismatic Ending on the Knight of the Reliquary, or the Recruiter of the Guard, excuse me. And now this enormous Knight of the Reliquary. I think it's an 11/11. Maybe a 12/12, 10/10. I can't really tell. I think the amount of power, its total power, is being represented by those dice. Or not? It's very confusing. In any case, Mason took enough damage that he decided to go to game 3. And here we go. Turn 1, Mother of Runes. Always a great play from the DnT player. If If you get that Mother of Runes down super early, it's really hard for other decks that are playing fair Magic to deal with it. We see a Life from the Loam being cast on John's side. That's going to get him back the card that he had to discard from the Mox Diamond. Oh, but immediately countered by a Rest in Peace. This is going to exile all cards in each graveyard when it comes into play as a triggered effect. And then it has a static ongoing effect saying that cards that go to the graveyard instead go to exile. It's a replacement effect. So it's not like they even get to go to the exile or to the graveyard in the first place. We see Dark Confidant come down on John's side, revealing a Toxic Deluge. We'll talk about that card in just a second. 2 Wastelands are going to blow up 2 of John's lands. So he's sitting with that Mother of Runes, and that's about it. We see a Blast Zone come down with supposed to be a single counter on it. Land revealed by Dark Confidant, not taking any damage, just drawing extra cards. Wasteland coming down, 3 mana, is going to be Plague Engineer, which is probably the best way to deal with Mother of Runes. You just name human, and all the humans on the opponent's side get -1/-1 statically. And that will get rid of Mother of Runes. She can't give protection from a static effect. That die, that blue die in the bottom corner there, or the bottom of the screen, is turns. These players have reached the end of their 50 minutes, and now they are on their 5-turn clock. We saw a Skyclave Apparition come down and get that Plague Engineer, which is supposed to be a 3 converted, the Illusion, but it looks like it's being represented as a 4 here. Toxic Deluge was a pretty cool card. You pay X life and all creatures get -X/-X until end of turn, which is going to get rid of the Skyclave Apparition and the Dark Confidant. So we see Mason cast Recruiter of the Guard, getting a Stoneforge Mystic to his hand. And on John's side, he has that 3/3 Illusion token that is going to get in for swings. We see another Plague Engineer naming Human, which is going to kill the Recruiter of the Guard. I think this is accidentally represented as 4, but I don't think it's going to matter as we are on turn 4 already here. The Stoneforge is going to come down and get Cauldron Complete. Mason playing the game as if it's not about to end, which I can respect. All right, the Stoneforge Mystic getting shot out of there with a Swords to Plowshares, 6 more damage. John trying to close out the game as well, but I think he's going to be just short of being able... I think he's 2 turns away if nothing else happened. So the players are going to scoop up their cards, and I believe that Mason is going to take that as he had the... Oh, no, they both won a game, so that is actually going to end as a draw. And so that's going to be the round for round 2. Please join us tomorrow for round 3. Thanks for watching, and please like and subscribe and tell your friends.